Dakota, so we always have to go down to North Dakota the right way. We're in Minnesota, Minneapolis, that area. And in Michigan, it's Clio, so right near Frankenmuth. If you know where Frankenmuth is a little border town. They got beer and chocolate. They got the biggest Christmas factory shop in the world. And then in North Dakota, it's Enderlin, which is a really small town, kind of southeast.
That sounded important. Yeah.
I have arrived. I am home. In the here, in the now. I am solid. I am free. In the ultimate, I dwell. This body is not me. I am not limited by this body. I am life without boundaries. I have never been born, and I have never died. So laugh with me. Hold my hand. Let us say goodbye. Say goodbye to meet again soon. We will meet at the source every moment. On behalf of Bill and Emily, let me welcome you to this last session of today's celebration of Jan's life. Bill's found a most unusual and a deeply spiritual way for us to weave a tapestry of the activities that were a major part of Jan's life. It's already been a day of swimming, biking, hiking, sharing of stories as ways of continuing our connection with Jan, and of celebrating some of the meaningful times that we share with Jan. I'm tempted to say that we are now going to touch on the spiritual side of Jan's life, but that would not accurately reflect on how Jan saw life. But that would not, because all of Jan's life was deeply spiritual, no matter what she was doing. Whether it was sharing with Bill or some other member of her loving family, whether it was laughing or crying with friends, whether it was simply riding a bike through the countryside, hugging a tree, or just holding nature in her heart. It was all spiritual to her. We all know how deeply Jan loved and cared for Bill and Emily. So let me ask Bill if he would share some of his thoughts, and I know he's been sharing his thoughts with folks all day. But let me once again ask him if he would continue to share and celebrate Jan's life with each other for us.
This has been one of the most beautiful days of my life. Sorrowful, but beautiful. And I just can't say enough in appreciation for the love that has been shared today. It's obviously clear that Jan's body is no longer with us in the same way, but her spirit, her soul, her mind, her love are as strong as ever. Jan loves deeply and profoundly. Unlike folks like me who make a lot of noise, but don't always do constructive things, Jan quietly moves with love in her heart and compassion in her soul. If we're looking at the yin and the yang, Jan and I were ideally suited for each other, but we're different. I'm an activity-aholic. Jan just is, profoundly so, deeply so. Many lessons in life become evident by being with her. Her love with others makes us all better people. During my professional career, I probably team taught 25 to 30 different 3-credit courses with Jan. I lived 10 years as a religious monk, but always had the good sense to defer to my lovely bride when it came to spirituality and emotional wellness. I'm the diet, exercise, environmental police guy. By contrast, Jan exhibits non-judgmental, present moment awareness. She's the most accepting and intuitive person I've ever met. She sees goodness and godliness in everything. She advocates for rocks, trees, deer, snakes, even humans. Jan sees that everything is part of the same holy sonship. During my professional career, I received accolades on occasion for teaching, service, research. But Jan always made me look much smarter than I actually am. She intuitively knows what to do and what to say. Often, she would say nothing, that we could all learn that lesson from her. And some of you have heard me say this already today, but when Emily and I were fretting about some medical issue at the Cleveland Clinic, Jan looked at us with her loving, lovely blue eyes and said, "It's going to be all right. Indeed, it's going to be all right." because this angel has our back. Thank you all for being here. We have a 10-minute meditation tape, John. And one way of having Jan with us today is that she'll lead us in a 10-minute mindfulness meditation. Em, do you want to speak first?
No, I didn't know the sequence of when the sunshine, sunshine song
Oh.
do you know? When is the You're My Sunshine?
John would.
Sitting meditation.
Sorry.
Coming to this sitting meditation with a clear intention of bringing mindfulness to each moment, of being aware, moment by moment, for the next 10 or 20 minutes. At the end of 10 minutes, the bell will ring once, signifying a stopping place. For those who want to meditate for 20 minutes, continue with the tape to the conclusion. Sitting in a position which for you in this moment embodies feelings of dignity and self-reliance, wakefulness, stillness, and stability. Sitting with the head and back erect but not rigid, shoulders relaxed, hands placed comfortably in the lap or on the knees. It's fine to sit on a chair or on the floor. As best you can, commit yourself to simply being fully awake, fully present for these moments. If you feel comfortable with it, allowing your eyes to gently close. Otherwise, to let your gaze fall unfocused on the floor. And now beginning by becoming aware of the breath. Aware of the flow of the breath as it moves in and as it moves out. Being aware of the sensations associated with the breath as it moves in and out. Tracing a pathway made by the air. Picking a spot, one point from which to focus on the breath. Either the tip of the nostril or the belly as it's rising and falling, or any place where the breath is most obvious to you. So picking one point and following the breath in and out. just riding the waves of your own breathing as you would a raft at the beach. Allowing your breath to remind you over and over again to be fully present, to be right here, right now. And any time your attention has wandered, noting where the mind has gone, and then gently letting go and bringing the attention back to the breath. And doing this over and over again, each time the mind moves away from the breath. Staying fully in touch. Just this breath coming in. Just this breath going out. Using the breath as an anchor to keep your attention right here in the present moment. And always remembering that the act of bringing the attention back to the breath is just as important as staying on the breath. dwelling in stillness and calmness as the breath moves in and out.
As this session is about spirituality and about nature, I'd like to call on Emily and Donna and Nicole to guide us, lead us in this most ancient and sacred of songs. And if you want to say anything before we start to do it.
Could you give her a microphone? The story behind this too.
So, Mom and I, growing up, we had a VW bug first, and both of us had long hair and wore bandanas in the car, and we'd sing this song to each other all the time. So it means a lot to me, and it meant a lot to her. And on that day that she passed, we sang it. We sang it to her a lot. Well, actually, we sang it to her a lot. So, just imagine us girls with our bandanas in our hair, going everywhere in the VW bug singing this song.
I'm going to play it for once, and then if you all can join for another two choruses, that would be great.
You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy when skies are gray. You'll never know, dear, how much I love you. Please don't take my sunshine away. You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy when skies are gray. You'll never know, dear, how much I love you. Please don't take my sunshine away. Please don't take my sunshine away.
I think that was ancient. Mike, let me call you to give the tone.
Hello, I'm going to read a poem by Mary Oliver. It's called When I Am Among the Trees. When I am among the trees, especially the willows and the honey locust, equally the beech, the oaks and the pines, they give off such hints of gladness. I'm so distant from the hope of myself, in which I have goodness and discernment, never hurry through the world, but walk slowly and bow often. Around me, the trees stir in their leaves and call out, "Stay a while." The light flows from their branches, and they call again. It's simple, they say. And you too have come into the world to do this, to go easy, to be filled with light, and to shine.
The next poem is a revised version of You Can Shed Tears. You can smile because Jan lived. You can open your eyes and see all Jan left for you. You can be happy for tomorrow because of yesterday. You can do what Jan would want. Smile, open your heart, love, and go on.
I was taking a poetry class when I visited Jan in Cleveland, and I wrote many poems about that time, and I'd like to share one with you. Resurrection in the Natural World for Jan. Traversing sun turns the tide, welcomed warmth arrives. The forest floor greening first, a symphony of flowers. Open miracles none withstanding, the trees summon their leaves. Suddenly a buzz, scented flowers, what foragers must appease. Spirits rise from deep sleep, like the willows swaying tresses. Partaking in spring's perfection, we witness our own resurrection.
There's a short reading that Jan used to like. It comes from the Dhammapada. And in many ways, it captures, I think, how she lived her life and captures how she would want us to live ours. It goes, live in joy and love, even among those who hate. Live in joy and health, even among the afflicted. Live in joy and peace, even among the troubled. I know that as we sit around here, we are folks that come from a number of different faiths, a number of different backgrounds, maybe some with no faith other than in nature and the universe, and that's a big other. If you will, the one thing that we are all about, I think, is trying to fully be humans. And one of the things that as you might guess from my dress, that I come from a Zen background. And there's something that I know Jan heard a number of times and was most comfortable with. In our view, this is a special, a most important time for Jan. It's a time of transition between the completion of one situation and the beginning of another. It's a time when the mind is freer than usual, a time of clarity and clairvoyance. It's a time when hells are left behind. And one of the things that is important in this tradition is that there's a belief that we all have an opportunity, a chance to help in that transition. And there's a belief that if we think of the one in transition, if we think of Jan with love in our heart, with laughter as we remember her, if you will, if we think with compassion, all of those things that we know that Jan believed in, that Jan exhibited, those are the things that will help her transition. And one of the ways that you can help is, in just a moment, Elma and I are going to chant an ancient chant called the Great Compassion Dharani. And Jan heard it many, many times over the years. But one of the things about the Great Compassion Dharani, it's an ancient Sanskrit dialect. And I would tell you exactly what it means, except I don't know what it means. And the reason is the chant is used to carry the intent of the people chanting and to carry the intent of those who are listening. And so as we chant, one of the things that I would call on you to do is to take a moment to say your own personal silent prayer or meditation in support of Jan in her time of transition. And as we chant, allow your thoughts and prayers to ride on the chant and know that they will be heard. Take a moment to breathe. Let your mind be open. Let your thoughts and prayers and hope and love for Jan guide with the sound. The great compassion, Dharani, Sinyu Jangu Tedarani, Namaradanadaraya, Namagaya Arudije, Sevaraya Mujisarabaya, Mahasarabaya, Mahagaronivaya, Om Salvavaya Sudarana, Karaya Rasamya, Namaharirava, Imamaya Parokije, Sevaratabani Radanta, Namaharinaya, Navada, Isam, Isalvata, Sajanam, Subhanayam, Salvavodanam, Abhamaramishuradam, Anyadam. Om aroge aroga, majiroga chikaranje, hare mahamuji sarava, samara samara, harinaya, puro puro dhamma sadaya, sadaya, Turodoro miyanje, mahamiyanje, taradara, harinare sevara, chara chara marami mara, amara muje roge sevara rahami sami, nasaya nave sami sami, nasaya muhajarami sami, nasaya horo horo mara, horo hari kanava, nava sara sara, siri siri, soro soro, mocha mocha, modaya modaya, nedariya, Anaksapaha Sitaya Sapaha Mahasitaya Sapaha Sitayuni Sevaya Sapaha Niraganhaya Sapaha Arahamuka Sinhamukaya Sapaha Anamahataya Sabahachakara Yoktaya Sapaha Sangha Suknani Mudanaya Sapaha Mahavakutadaya Sapaha Amasakanta Isasideka Karina Vinaya Sapaha Nyatara Chalva Ivasanaya Sapaha Namurathanadala Yaya Namaya Harugide Sevaya Sabaha. Nicole, let me now turn the next section over to you.
The next activity is optional for those of you who cannot walk because it's going to involve going into the forest, not very far, very close, and picking up an object that reminds you of that. So I'd like to sort of give you a little guideline before you get started. So you'll see kind of instructions before going to the woods. When you return with the object, there's a little table over there, and I'll place 2 chairs beside because I realize there's a lot of people, and the table is way too small to accommodate the objects that you may be picking. So, and as Bill mentioned in his email, please do not take a whole plant or roots or anything that would be injurious to the environment. So first we're going to stand up, for those of you who can. So before entering the forest, I would suggest that we be grounded. And so we're going to start by having the feet down and feeling the heels of your feet, the toes of your feet, and pressing down, feeling the whole of your body. The shoulders go back and down, crown of the head to the sky. And now start to become aware of your breathing. Feel the passage of breath inward and then outward. And now we're going to be aware of our 5 senses. So our senses are going to guide us into finding the object. And I like to think that in finding the object, Jan is probably going to contact our 6th sense. So really feeling your senses becoming more vivid, more alive, supported by the aliveness of your breath. And we're going to start with just one yoga pose, no big challenge, and we'll do mountain pose. So have your feet parallel to each other. I'm not going to go into alignments for all the yoga teachers that are here. Bring the arms above the head and just palms face each other and fingers to the sky. And feel the element of earth from beneath you and ether and air way up. Good. Bring a smile to your face, bring a smile to your heart. Ooh, and now as you exhale, you're going to turn the palms outward and you're going to create a gigantic circle in the room here with preparing the energy for the object that we'll be picking and bringing it back here. So Jan is going to contact you for the object that you pick. And it's also possible that no object comes to you, and that's okay. And when we come back, the objects will be here. So, thank you. And you have the option to share your experience of finding the object and what it means to you. And you also have the option of being completely silent within you and just be with the spirit of Jan. So Jan will, just like Jan, guide you. Don't go too far. And please, as you walk, we'll practice like a mindful walking, which is very slowly walking onto the earth. You know, treating the earth with sacredness and gentleness. And just keep your senses vivid and alive. Stay with the passage of the breath and find your object.
When you hear the sound of mudcock, the wooden drum, that'll be your signal to come back.
Those of you who need to stay here.
I am. No, I'm staying.
Yes. So for those of you that need to stay here, simply sit and
I'm Tina.
I am Tina.
Remember you as a little girl. Just a little bit. Someone needs to represent the chief. She would write the letter in color. My hair. She knew about I'm not spiritually received. cared about each other. I know she cared about me. Of course she would. She was always, well, she was always my Emily, my Emily. Constantly. Did you guys go? Did you meet I kept up with her with you because she kept telling me where you were and what you wanted to do. And so where do you live now? Well, you gotta know that your mom is in a great place. I mean, she's into the spirit. She'll be fine. Don't worry about it. Yeah, yes. Isn't that? Like, come on, man. So, what's your name?
I'm Holly.
I'm Tina. I know where I live.
I know we're Jan and Emily's house for a sure
Okay, so when you come into the park, my house is in the middle of the park. So you need to go left.
Right, I know where you're talking about.
I did their wedding.
It is, truly.
I should look closer. I did their wedding.
I remember that.
Jan and I spent so much time together, you know, and I'll think about her when I'm doing this, but I have been working all my life, one business after another.
I'm really fine, but really
This
fine.
past year, I decided I'm not gonna do any of this. So I quit, so this was the first year ever in my whole life that I haven't had a job. But I got responsibility. I'm not gonna, a real job, you know, and I've learned how to watch the roads now. Again, I used to do that. I used to do that. But I look at them and that's hard. So I have my own. Everybody should. I know. Coded across the lake. There's 3 trees. And they're like, they're all together. Every morning I sit and I look at this. And I just, my mind just. Good thing. So.
That's, Jen and I made that sign.
Do you remember Karen and Bill? Bill even came over where I was cooking in my kitchen. And he made sure I had no fat. We have good cookies today, so I said, oh, Bill, I
The Courage Day. Keep waking up. I like
I managed to walk into the woods without
Found my arms over 2 pieces of trash.
I brought some trash too, because that's what Jan would do.
Yeah, exactly. I felt like it was the trail that led me to the.
Nice to see you. Good. It's great to see you. You do too. Dennis for that. Enjoyed his presence. Oh, yeah. Of course. Thank you.
As people make their way back to their seats, I want to give folks an opportunity to make comments, open up, share your thoughts in the moment, as well as to share how, if you place an item and you want to comment on that, to comment on the item as we continue with our program. So is there anyone who would like to share their thoughts with us today?
Hey, thank you. I'm Hilda. I'm the other Hilda. I found the first thing that struck me was this Tootsie Roll wrapper. And I thought, well, Jan would pick that up and throw it away. The next thing I saw was this little pin that's a pirate, skull and crossbones. And immediately I thought about her love of the ocean. I don't know if she ever ran into pirates, but you never know.
Married one.
Married one. There you go. And then I saw this stick. I thought it was completely round, but it was split on one side. And when I saw this, I remembered the birth of my first son. I don't know where he is, but he's here somewhere. And the first person that came, she came to the hospital when I was in labor, was Jan. And the group, Jan and I go back 50 years. So she had Emily. Emily was 3 when I got pregnant with Eli. And so she'd already been down that road. And so she came, she talked to my doctor. I don't know what she was going to do, but the gift that she gave me was some significant reassurances.
But the other gift she gave me was that she told Doug, her husband, Doug Jewson, to come the next morning and take pictures. So Eli's first pictures were taken at Jan's instruction. And they're wonderful. They're wonderful early baby pictures of Eli. And I was able then to do the same kind of thing for our next friend who was going through the motherhood journey, starting it, and that was Hilda Hurst. And it's very hard to see the two of them together on the photos, but knowing that they are both together now. And that their children, Emily, Megan, and Sarah, are orphans now. And it's just a life cycle, of course, but I'm honored and thrilled that I'm here to be part of their lives. When it was clear she was getting near the end, she asked me to come be with her, and I did when she was passing. And then before she died, she asked me to always be there for Sarah and for Megan, and I am, and I have been, and I'm very honored by that. One of my funniest stories about Jan that I like to remember, and probably some of you that are here will remember, when she worked at Valley. Any of you all here know some of those stories? Well, as I was told the story, because I didn't work at Valley, but her boss, Obie Foley, had called her because she was supervising these young women. Those young women included Hilda Hirsch, Mamie Burton, Cindy Ashburn, Darnell Littell, and some other somewhat rebellious young women. And she was standing there in front of him while he was telling her that she needed her influence with these younger women to make sure that they wore a bra to work every day. And she's standing there saying, okay. And she's standing there braless. I love you, Jan.
I found this leaf, but what I saw, before I saw the leaf, was a huge tree, a fallen tree. And so I went right to the fallen tree, and I just stayed with it for a minute or so, and I realized there was silence. That's the first thing I noticed after I got to the tree. And then it occurred to me that this tree is a witness, a silent witness to all the growth, all the life around it. I saw the leaf, and I saw some mushrooms. I didn't pull the mushrooms out. Didn't think that was appropriate to bring it to them. I had to witness the mushroom. And then I saw a little tree growing next to the fallen tree. And it occurred to me that this tree, which is fallen, has been there for a long time and had witnessed all this life around it. But not just witnessing the life around it, but its roots feed all the trees around it itself. That's something I learned a little while ago, that this fallen tree feeds all the life around it. And then it occurred to me that each of us is a witness for each other. And Jan brought joy to each of us. She witnessed something deep, spiritual, and brought it out so we could all see what that was that she felt, that she experienced. And so the lesson for me is to be a witness for everyone that I encounter, for whatever depth I can experience life in, to be a witness to that, to others, and to bring that to others as well. So I think Jan did an amazing job, clearly, of being a witness for us, of the deeper aspect of life.
Well, anybody that knows me knows I've been dying to talk all day. So I have been. I didn't walk out in the forest because the thing I found in our little time was Emily. And I promised Jan that I would look after her. And she's a very special part of my life. But before I knew Emily and before I knew Jan, I knew Bill. So, Bill, I want to know, like, you've always been Bill Reger. You've never been William Reger. You never liked that. But Jan called you Billy. And she called you Billy all the time. And I could never get away with that. Even when I was really mad at you, I couldn't get away with it. So I know Nicole introduced them, but I was kind of the catalyst for the two of them. Of course I was. But we were in the bathroom at Jackson's Mill and doing our first lifestyle class. Ken McPherson's there too, for anybody who knows Ken. And you know, Ken's wondering what in the world and who I am that Bill found and why am I there. And I'm in the bathroom with Jan and she goes, "So, are you dating Bill?" Like, yuck. No. She goes, "He is so cute." And I'm like, more yuck, more yuck. And they started talking, and then I got to be friends with Jan, and she'd say, "Well, do you think he likes me?" And Bill would say, "Well, what do you think of her?" Because Bill would always have these like myriad of very nice women who were very, I called them bimbettes, because they were just not real bright, and some of them had big chests. And he would come up and bike or do something with Oscar, and then I would be left with the bimbette for the riveting conversations that we would have. So when we found Jan, we weren't letting her go, were we, Bill? No. So I just decided that that was going to happen. So out in Cleveland Clinic, when I was there, and Jan had some good times and some good days. But one of the things I told her was, we have to get back to West Virginia because you cannot die in Cleveland because of the Browns. Because I am a Steeler fan, and that's not happening in Cleveland. So we had the country roads take us home. And when the Wednesday before she passed, I walked in with bunny ears on, and they were the kind that when they go flop, flop, flop. And she said to me, she goes, "Holly, you are so cool." And I don't know that anybody ever said that to me, but it's my life goal to be cool. And I know she thought I was funny, but it was really neat that she told me that I was cool. So I am very appreciative of her gift, because Bill and I were friends a long time. But I'm appreciative for Jan, I'm appreciative for Emily, and for many of you that I know through Jan, Reger-Nash. And you guys can clap.
I'm Duane Jewson. I'm proud to be Emily's uncle, and proud to have Bill be my brother and Jan my sister. I first met Jan in I've been debating all day. Was it 71? I think so. I had just come off a 25-day canoe trip. It was Manitoba, Lake Winnipeg. And there was this luminous, gorgeous, and I'm sorry folks, incredibly sexy woman who knocked me out. There she was. It was the first time I'd met her. Picking me up, my former wife and I, up from a long canoe trip. And she was filled with sunshine and life and vitality and optimism. And so, as I went out walking
first saw a clover leaf, and I looked at that and I said, is that where she's leading me? And then I saw this. It was lying on the floor, and I was of the forest, and I was at first concerned, oh, it's living, I don't want to pick it up. But if you see all the orange there, the sunshine, and that for me is the gift of Jan.
Well, I walked outside and it was very clear that Jan was telling me to pick up. So I did it right away. And this is a weed. And it is a, oh, come on. Dandelion. Thank you. Dandelion. And the reason why I picked it up is because Jan would see the beauty in all the flowers, and there were no weeds for Jan.
Would anyone else like to?
I'm Jane, right? And I picked up a thing you can't see. It's really just the top of something called bear corn or squaw corn. It's a kind of a fungus. But anyhow, what it is this whorl. I'll pass it around. And why I picked it up is it, first of all, I didn't bring more because I was instructed not to pick the whole plant, right? But this thing has like a center, and then it's a whorl, and then more and more all around it. And I first met Jan as part of the Valley Girls. I was kind of an extension of that, just doing probably in the 1980s. But everything she did, she planted these little seeds and just became the center of this little pod, this little network. And then something else would start that seemed completely unrelated and unrelated. And she was always, Isabel, you remember how she did this. I mean, you all taught me how to be like an independent woman. I couldn't believe it. There was this group of social workers, and they were just we do these case staffings of families with very seriously ill kids born with serious lifetime disabilities. And those meetings were so wonderful, but we also had such fun and respect for each other, and the multidisciplinary, the disciplines that were represented there. And I thought, who are these women? Have I never met them before? And then came the saunas and the parties, and it was just, so that made me think about, and then she did it again with mindfulness, and she did it again and again and again. So that's it.
Jane, I think you got it out of order. I think it was the parties and then the saunas.
My name's Michael McKernan, and I've known Bill for a great number of years, and met Jan when I first moved here in 1981. And the ladies, Hilda and Hilda Hirsch, folks from Valley. I was in graduate school here, came to work with Dr. Clements out of UNIT. I'm great for that. And got to meet Emily through Bill and Jane as we were spending time with Dad as he was preparing to transition. And I picked this triple leaf up, connected, and I picked up a piece of a bark. And at first it made me think about as trees lose bark and grow more, and then I walked a little further and I saw this. And it made me think more of the present leading to the future. Here are three connected pieces, which of course is Emily and Jan and Bill that I've known. And what I liked about the diagram of the tree leaf was that each leaf stands alone. They're all attached, so they stand together. They represent, to me, what has been the best for them as a family. Also what the future holds for the people they're gonna meet and share memories. Jan's spirit will continue. And the little indentations made me think of the different people I've known that have come into their company and now are connected to them through the spirits that they've shared. And that's been the case with me, my friendship with them. Thank you very much.
Mine's going to be very short. Mine's going to be very short and sweet. I met Jan at Valley initially. I was a newcomer when the old Valley girls were leaving. I was coming in. Anyway, I found this lichen, and I went on up through the woods, and I came back through the same way and saw it looking at me. And I think it is here so that we can liken ourselves to Jan.
Other thoughts or comments?
Hi, I'm Gretchen Nord. Bill was my professor. I think I knew you first, and then I was delighted to realize that he was also a neighbor, and that's when I met Emily and Jan, and we were in the same program together. And the first thing that I tried to pick up, but it wouldn't come with me, was this really sweet little, like, two-part, I don't know the trees, but like two little leaves. But they were different looking, and it reminded me of Bill, you and Jan, like birds of a feather, like adorable. And I realized that I always had this admiration for your relationship. It was so pure, so beautiful, it's very inspirational. And so I kept walking because I wanted to come back with something, and I found this, and it is, to me, a why, and it's a big yes to life. So that was the message that I received. And the other thing I just want to say is this has been the coolest, like, reunion celebration of life. I had no idea so many people were related to Jan, and you know, to see so many old friends has been really special.
Hello, my name is Jonna. I was blessed to know Jan for as long as I did, which was a very short amount of time. I just met Jan pretty recently through Bill and the progressive political activities that they both so wholeheartedly supported. And when I went into the forest, I found this very lovely, very soft moss. And first I went out there and I actually found a snail, and I picked it up and I thought, a snail shouldn't come with me, it should stay in the forest. But I was guided further into the forest. I noticed all around me was this beautiful soft moss, and it reminded me of Jan's beauty and her softness, and the way that, to me, she seemed to be a comfort to all around her. And in the way that moss can also be like a compass to show you which direction you're heading, and I hope that you will consider the impression that Jan has left on all of us as a compass for how to live your own life. And just remember that as moss is everywhere you look, all around us in the forest, so is Jan's spirit, and so is her essence and her love all around us all the time. So that's why I chose this. Thank you.
My name's Will. For most of my mindful walk in the woods, I was grateful for the instructions saying it's okay if you aren't struck with some sort of insight. Because it was only when the tones sounded and I looked down and I saw the seed pod. And of course from seed pods grow great and wondrous things that seem almost impossible that such a great tree could come from such a small seed. And it reminded me of the way Jan worked, and somebody else I think spoke to that earlier. Like some people, I knew Bill before I knew Jan, and Bill had always been a force of nature, a way for me to learn what I felt like I needed to learn about exercise or diet or politics or whatever it might be. There was endless, sources of wisdom and content there. And I had a situation about 20 years ago where there was a lot of stress in my life, and was talking with Bill and Jan. And Jan just was able to speak with a peacefulness and made some suggestions about something I might want to read and something I wanted to learn from. And it really affected a lot of my learning going forward. It was very, very influential in my life. And at that point I learned if Bill's a force of nature, Jan is nature. And that stuck with me, and being out in the forest just now reminded me of that. So thanks to those who designed that exercise.
Hi, my name's Megan. I met Jan when she moved into a neighborhood, a small neighborhood called Forks Petite Forest. And she was kind of a rock in our community, I believe. We had these very small picnics in our Central Park area on the weekends, and she brought everyone together. Not all of us knew each other. I certainly didn't. Our family knew the other families that had small children, but she was one who introduced everyone to everybody else. She radiated, a love and a kindness, and she had this sense of beauty, and there's something about her that made you trust her immediately. She had no airs about her, just this immediate glow that emanated from her that made you want to go to her, and immediately you knew that you were safe around her, and everything was right in her presence. So to me, she really was a rock and a pillar of strength to me. And also, she brought me to Emily, who is a true gift in my life. And she and I have become very precious friends. She's a wonderful person to me. I love you, Emily.
I'm Sarah Beth. I know all three of you so well throughout the years. I think I knew you first, and then maybe Jan, and you will. I'm grateful for all of it. I think associatively, so I went to the fern frond kind of instinctively, and it reminded me of some other plants, which then reminded me of Jan. And here's how it worked. I'm always struck by willows, and they were mentioned in the Mary Oliver poem, and I think in your poem too, but at any rate, in your poem, there was a mention of this lush verdancy that you see on the forest floor in the early spring, and it's that spring green that you get before the summer green, and it was everywhere as I drove along the road in here. And that reminded me of Jan through the newness that I associated with the optimism that she just always showed, and her constant smile. And then these two plants also reminded me of her through their grace. And bear with me, there's a third plant that this plant reminded me of, and that is kelp in water and moving so gracefully. And you know, I love the mention of the transition that she's going through too. And I think of it in this way. Water is a different medium, and things move through that medium in different speeds. Jan is moving from one medium to another right now, but she's still moving among us gracefully and lovingly. Thanks.
My name's Mike. So I actually met Jan before I met Bill, quite a few years ago. And then Bill and I were both in the same department in community medicine, in medical school. So I got to know him very well. So I've known him for a while. And I've done something like this before, but I thought, okay, suspend all disbelief and go off and walk and see what happens. And so I got drawn up towards the tree stump. And I walked by the tree stump and I looked at it and I thought, I have a feeling for what I need to get. Down at the base of the tree stump, there was this little thing that's probably part of an old acorn or something that's split. But this is not the object that I brought back. This is what I brought the object in. Because in this little piece is a little hollowed out area. And I walked over to the tree stump, which is now filled with rainwater. And I gathered a single drop of rain and brought back the rainwater. And I also noticed that this was never going to sit flat when I brought it back. But that was even better, because when I brought it back, I set it down, the water came out. It infused everything around it. And like Jan, it touches all into which it flows. And Jan's relation to water was quite obvious as well. And most importantly, raindrops come, they nourish the soil, bringing the nutrients to all of the plants, but they disappear in that process, only to be taken back up into the environment and rained down again in a universal process of cycles going round and round and round. And they come back again, and they do their job again. And so, although it's a single drop falling once into a puddle, it continues on. Yes.
I'm Isabel, and I guess I was one of the Valley girls. Jan hired me back in 1982, and she was such a wonderful, compassionate, loving, caring, I hate to say boss, because she really was more of a co-worker, and she did have our backs too. Not only is she an angel with there with our backs, but she was for us at Valley and all the women that worked with her. She stood up for us in many ways and supported us, and we had fun with her, and it was wonderful, and I'll never forget her for that, all that she'd done for me. But so when I went out there, I did what Nicole said, just take it in and see where she leads you. And I was listening, I said, Jan, okay, where do you want me to go? Where are you going to lead me to? And she led me to this. And I took a few steps past it, and I said, Jan, you really want me to pick that up? And yes, you need to pick it up. So I went back and picked it up. And I thought, well, okay, this is what you want me to have. And it does have a hole in it, so maybe I'll go a little further. And I thought, oh, I'll pick this twig up. It was on the picnic table. It's part of the trees, and I'll make a little tree out of it. And I started thinking, yeah, this is kind of cool. I'm repurposing a bottle that Jan led me to. And in many ways, what she has taught me and all that I've heard today, she has taught everybody else about her love and her joy and her compassion for everybody. So many times she would come up to me at work and come and look at me in the eyes and get real close and said, you know, Isabel, I've been thinking about what we talked about the other day. And she was like totally focused on me. Now, what do you think about if we do this? You know, yeah, okay, sure. That's it. So I'm thinking we're passing on, hopefully, and reusing all the things that she has taught us and give it to somebody else, the joy and the love and the compassion for everybody. I never did hear her say anything negative about anybody. So anyway, I can't help thinking that she might have something really funny to say about this too.
Yes, I'm Colleen, and I did not pick this up in the woods. I brought this with me, I cheated, because this is one of the books that Jan put forward for our book club. It's a Barbara Kingsolver, called Prodigal Summer. I've just got started on it, and it's wonderful. It's a great read, and it takes you right into the woods, absolutely. So just as well, just like going into the woods. So that's how I know Jan the best is through our wonderful book club that some of you other people here are part of, and that we have enjoyed having Jan be part of. And like Megan, I have also encountered Jan. I also encountered her as someone who was like a rock, a very solid person that I could call up, and she invited me to do that. When I was going through some troubled times, I knew I could call Jan, and she would listen. And I'm sure Bill was aware, what is Jan listening to? This person who won't stop talking. But she was there with her compassion and her understanding. And I appreciate that, and I will always remember that. Thank you.
I'm Robin, and I have no memory. So there's a quote, I think it's by Stephen Hawking, that says, we're advanced apes on an average planet in an average galaxy and solar system in a huge universe. But we can understand at least a part of that universe. And I have an average stick. It's nothing special. It's just like me. Yet this stick came off a tree that was living, and it fell down, and it's decomposing thanks to all the microbes and the macrobes and all those other nice little critters to create the growth for more plants, trees, etc. And just like us being in the universe is a cycle, this is a cycle in nature. And I think the nature of the universe is love, it's peace, it's compassion. And so this very little average stick on this average planet in an average galaxy embodies at the same time these universal principles that bring you right back to Jan.
I knew Jan for 32 years, and I introduced her to Bill, and I'm really glad it worked out.
Me too.
So my story is the least cosmic of the stories that I've heard today, and it starts at Lowe's. I walked into Lowe's to find a plant for a centerpiece, and I went directly to this plant that Jan led me to. And I think that I grow a lot of plants. Those of you who know me know that I love to grow flowers, and this is very tenacious. And it flowers forever, for weeks and weeks and weeks. It's not ephemeral. And it's beautiful. And it's got texture, and it's got so many beautiful qualities. And then in the center, also, there's a different color entirely from the outside. And it's a little bit like Jan, who was multicolored. She was multifaceted, and so that's where this started. And Jan, I love you forever, and I miss her now so much. And that's about it.
Anyone else who would like to say anything? Well, as we continue, one of the things I want to call your attention to was something that Bill had mentioned. If you will, that Jan gave her own special blessing to Bill and all those who were around at the time, Emily. And, but I think it's important for us not to miss it, because she understood it, and it's important. And it was simple. And she just said, it's all going to be okay. She understood that we're all connected. She understood our love for each other, our passion for each other, and how deeply rooted we are in each other. But she understood more. It wasn't just her friends that she was deeply rooted to. It was everyone around her, everyone she ever met, every tree she touched, every flower she smelled. That's Jan. That's you and I. It's all of us, and she's a part of us. And so, if I may, let me offer my own short blessing as we continue. May the wind carry Jan's spirit gently. May the earth receive her body. May the flower of Jan's love and compassion continue to bloom in us all. As we come to the last part of our celebration of Jan's life, I recall Bill and Jan's wedding vividly. For those of you who were there, you will probably recall it in the same way. And I'm reminded of a quote that many of you, I'm sure, have heard before, but let me throw it out there to you. And those who were seen dancing were thought to be insane by those who could not hear the music. Jan could hear the music, and she helped us hear the music. But to explain how that fits into our celebration, let me call on Nicole and Elma to give us a little perspective and guidance on the last segment of today's celebration.
Okay. We were at Bill and Jane's wedding, and at the end of it, when people were, I don't need that.
Okay.
I'm a band director, take this.
Use it for the YouTube.
No, you can't hear it in the back, so go ahead and use
Oh, okay. How do I use it? Okay, so one of the things that she and the rest of us, or at least a few of us, decided we needed to learn the Macarena. Wow. And that was the last thing we did at their wedding, and it was so much fun. Yeah. None of us knew what we were doing, and unfortunately, I don't think we still know. But that's not that's another day.
Well, we practiced the other day, so I think we can lead you through a little bit of it, but probably maybe moving the chairs for those of you. You can sit and do that, You don't have to stand up because it's all about the arms. So move chairs or do it on your chair. And where's Holly? Holly, you have our music.
Are we gonna, can we put the music somehow, or do we just put the microphone?
Do you have it? You can put it on this
Excuse me. Actually, here's body.
If you want, you just lay the phone up on the mantle and set the microphone.
Yeah, you can do it. Okay, so you got it, right? Yeah, that's... Yeah. Hi. Then we hug all friends.
I have such a great story.
Let's try to make it. Right? Mark? There it is. There we go.
I was so shocked. But like you're not start laughing and crying while you're so I was worried for that because that's the one thing I go.
Oh, I thought so. I didn't think there was another thing to do. Yes, not.
That's how you come.
That's right. No, I would be over head. Yeah. But let me check. Sometimes that's why we wear name tags. Yeah.
Where's Holly? Holly. Okay. Those of you who want to dance, come in. So how do we do? Do you know it really well? Okay, yes, okay, yes, not that fast. Carl, so we're going to do the directions. Yeah, okay. Okay, those of you who want to dance, hello. If you want to dance, please come in. So you can get the directions to the Macarena. Okay, so. So the moves to the Macarena are very simple, and we're going to repeat them over and over again. and then the music will come on sometime or other. So the first movement, let's learn it together. We bring the right hand out, palm down, left hand, palm down. Right hand, palm up, left hand, palm up. Right hand to right shoulder, left hand to left shoulder. Right hand to behind your ear, left hand behind your ear. Right hand over the left hip, left hand over the right hip. Right hand, I'm left-handed, so I'm doing everything opposite. Right hand and your rump, the other side of your rump, then you do the hip circle 3 times, right? And then you turn to the right. So one easy way to remember is numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then you start 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Turn to the right. Are you ready? You don't have my help. Yeah. Music. Thanks. We're efforting.
You know, if they can't get the music on, I keep the time on the rooftop.
Oh, and also, so while you have the palm down, palm up like this, then you start with the hips.
Oh yeah, you gotta get it.
See if this is the right beat for you. Start the beat, go until they get the music. I'll match you with the beat.
Alright, okay, not too fast. All right, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6,
Here we go.
To the right.
Anybody want to come and try this with us? It's planned, but we can't get it to play.
7, 8, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 9, 10, 13, 14. Wait a minute, so much.